Wonderful. Very grateful for all of you joining here. I'm going to click presentation as well. Last week we covered till verse 30. Is that fair? We started with text, finish 30?
I think we have to start 32, I thought.
Yes, 32. Yes. I'm going to share the presentation. This is what we covered last time. We covered Garuda, is that right? Last time talking about the
Yeah.
sparrow and Garuda. Beautiful. So before we start, we'll start with the prayer. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dheena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्वास आदि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे मुकुं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्. Wonderful, very grateful for all of you joining. We have Dora Swami Prabhu, we have Supraja Mataji, we have Nitya Mataji, and Srikant Prabhu. Very grateful for you joining today. We are continuing on chapter 3, which is entitled as Karma Yoga. And then we are on the section we covered last week, which is talking about what are the different symptoms. We covered on verse 3.31, which is talking about the truth of Krishna consciousness is eternal. We may have just came to New Jersey after 11 years. I was here for a good period of time, but then moved to Michigan. So I was just seeing, meeting a lot of close friends, and what I realized is that with time everything changes, and with time we will also disappear from this world. But the reality is, what is eternal is Krishna consciousness eternal. And what is the meaning of Krishna consciousness? Means being conscious of Krishna. And we talked about studying Bhagavad Gita without faith has no benefit. We take it from that example that, like, this person who's trying to read just Bhagavad Gita like any ordinary novel, that's not going to bring the transformation of the heart. Benefit will be there to a certain extent because it is still connecting to Bhagavad Gita. But if I just going to speak Bhagavad Gita like a parrot, that's not going to take me anywhere. So we covered that, and we covered the firm faith gives surety of success, um and also the last one, which is firm faith even though unable to execute the injunction. So we covered the example about Garuda, how he actually took care of things, how he saved the sparrow, and then whose eggs were stolen by the ocean. That is what we covered yesterday or last week. We are starting with text 3.32. So let's read first. We'll recite Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Ye tva etat abhyasuyanto
Yetva etad abhyasunto
nanutishtanti me matam
nanutishtanti me matam
Sarvagyana Vimudamstan
Sarvagya
Sarvajnana Vimutamstan
Vimuttamstam
Viddinastan Achetasaha.
Vidhi
Vidhinastan
Nashtan Achetah.
Any volunteer for translation?
Yeah, I can read. But those who, out of envy, disregards these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So what we are talking about is, if I decline whatever is provided by Krishna, or we avoid thinking that, oh, there is no God because I can't see God. So why we do that? Or I was just giving an example last week. We're talking about one of the person, or one of the lady who was asking the question to one of the guru in Scon. She was mentioning about why did Krishna married 16,108 wives, and how was he managing. So the question which was asked was, the mood of the question is being envy, saying that why that person has that. This world is all revolving around envy, which is, oh, my, this person, my neighbor has this car, my neighbor has this big house, or my friend has this car and he has a big house, or she has a big house, I also want to have that. And that actually runs the whole show. And here Krishna is clearing out this thing. But those who are out of envy in this, in regards to God, disregard these teachings. I am not going to follow this. Why should I do that? And do not follow these regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, which is ultimately whatever knowledge we acquired from material perspective, that is all going to go in vain. That's the true reality of this world, because when I'm going to leave the body, I'm going to leave all the knowledge I acquired. Not that I can carry that knowledge in my next life. I give the example when we talked about, if I earned a PhD degree in this lifetime, I cannot put forward in my next life, "Hey, I already did the PhD, I'm not going to do a kindergarten." Everything has to start from scratch. So all material knowledge has a beginning and an end. But when we talk about the spiritual knowledge, that actually gives us an ability to transform as well as go beyond the cycle of birth and death. So such people who do not want to follow, they don't have a knowledge, they are befooled and ruined in their endeavor for perfection. So what we see, the theme of this verse is flaw of not being Krishna conscious, or specifically being God conscious. We see here the example of Duryodhan. So Duryodhan, we all know from Mahabharat perspective, Duryodhan is actually the cousin brother, or not cousin brother, actually the real cousin brother, yes, of Pandavas. And Krishna is actually their well-wisher. Krishna is always being with them. And here they tried everything to somehow put the Pandavas down and then take away all their kingdom, though that kingdom belonged to them. So such a person, and this is very beautiful. Actually, I was just listening one of the lecture where it was explicitly mentioning Duryodhana actually know what is dharma and adharma. But the nature of this world is that even the knowledge itself is not sufficient in itself. Even though he knew what is dharma and what is adharma, his ability to continue adharma and not following dharma still continued. And we see second example is about Ravana. Ravana was a pandit, he was a Brahmana, and he was very well established in scriptures. He was the son of Brahmana, and by birth he is supposed to be Brahmana, that way, at least from the caste perspective. But in spite of all the knowledge he is having, he is not able to apply that in his life. So such a person, here given example about Duryodhana, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them. And that is unfortunately the reality of this world, that such people actually may be living very lavishly or very opulently, but what is the end is what it counts. So if you see Pandava's life, their whole life was a struggle, but what is the end? We gave an example last week. We were talking about um who was that, Jatayu. Was he successful or was he a failure? And we discussed about that. He was actually successful. From material perspective, he lost the battle, but he he won the heart of Lord Ramachandra, and then actually achieved the perfection going back to spiritual world. The second point of this verse is fate of disobedient person is considered bereft of all knowledge and be fooled, ruined in their endeavors for perfection. And again, Duryodhana's example, when Lord Krishna personally appeared as a messenger, that let's do a peace thing, let's do a peace formula, and then make sure, that you just give them 5 villages, you run the kingdom, no problem, you take the kingdom, because they are Kshatriyas, they want to follow their dharma. Can you at least give them 5 villages to rule? And what was Duryodhana's response? I will not even give them the space to put a needle. And then not only that, he actually asked his soldiers to go and catch hold of Krishna, trap him, and put him in the bar, put him behind the bars. Krishna just smiled and actually showed the Vishwaroop first time. And then second time, of course, he showed in Bhagavad Gita. So that is the theme. And what is the learning from this verse is the analogy of disobedience. As there is a punishment for disobedience to the order of the supreme executive head, similarly, there is a punishment for disobedience to the orders of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we see when we talk about the laws which are even in this world to live, there are government laws which we are supposed to abide. And if anyone doesn't abide to that one, then they are punished. Like you see this fellow who is behind the bar because he did not follow the rules. He did not be obedient of the laws of the government. And similar way, when these people do not want to follow or become disobedient to the laws of God, unfortunately, material laws are defined that way. Nobody can escape. We can escape sometime, be humble, or we being very obedient when we get to know the cop is there and the speed limit is 75, I'm driving at 85. And then you become obedient for a given period of time, thinking that, oh, I fooled this guy, and I was driving 85 for most of the distance, and now I'm at 75. But actually, material laws nobody can escape. And what is the ignorance and destiny of these such disobedient people? He is ignorant of own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and Supreme Personality of Godhead due to vacant heart. So, all everyone has a heart, but there's a difference between a fulfilled heart and a vacant heart. It is all about the virtue of being satisfied. It is all the virtue of how filled you are, because the people in this world, there is so much chaos going on. You pretty much see every day today on LinkedIn, there are so many news as this company cuts these many jobs, this company laid off these many people. So people are so scared, people are so afraid actually, seeing the situation around what will happen to me. So everyone is living in fear today. I was just talking, of course, we are just talking about I'm on visa, but there are a lot of people who are actually on green card and they have citizenship, but there is so much struggle actually for them to even get the job. Unfortunately, the reality of this world is everything is temporary. Nothing just goes as it is forever. And what is the destiny of such people? There is no hope for perfection. Like you see on the right hand side, you see insecurity. You see there is a sleep deprivation. You see there is no trust between people, right? And there is so much stress. There are people who are workaholic. I was just here actually, New Jersey, and then I was working here, so I know how's the work pressure here and how's the work-life balance here. So I was just staying at one of my friend's house, and he was mentioning about one of his neighbor who happened to be his schoolmate from India, and then he came here and he was mentioning about saying that he has so much of health issues, so many health issues he has, so much under pressure due to work. He works like almost 20 out of 12 to 14 hours he every day works because he has to fulfill that. Saying that, oh, you know what, there is so much competition here. So people are just ready to take up their job. So there is so much chaos here. And one has, until we realize that our existence in this material world is temporary, realize what is permanent and how to achieve that permanent is the key. And how will that happen is by being obedient to the scriptures, following the scriptures. One who does not abide to scriptures, material laws, even if they somehow or other escape for a given period of time and even in material nature, but the laws apply to everyone. Any questions or comments up to this slide?
No.
Okay. Okay. So in this slide, this is Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport that the scriptures or Vedas are eternal, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also eternal. And very interestingly, we are also eternal, not from a bodily platform perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, we are also eternal. And Ramanujacharya is quoting, actually, Ramanujacharya is one of the very prominent guru, and he is talking about there are three kind of people. First one, who are qualified to understand the scriptures and decide for themselves what are my instruction. That is one way of understanding. Now, second one is who have full faith in the meaning of the Shastras without, however, practicing it, which is everything is theoretically, they are unable to practice it. And this is the second kind of people who are there on this platform. And the third platform, which is being mentioned here, who even though devoid of faith, do not find any blemish pertaining to the Shastra, which possess great qualities. So you see, second and third quality of people. The second is they have full faith in the meaning of Shastras, but they do not want to practice. So not that they do not have a knowledge. They have knowledge, they have faith, but they feel I cannot practice it. What you see on the right hand side, there's a very beautiful pastime there in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Narada Muni, who is actually the guru of Vyasadeva, who actually wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. So Narada Muni is telling about his past life. Narada Muni in his past life, this is one lifetime back, but he knew more than one lifetime back. We will not go there. But he knew what was his life one lifetime before. So he was actually the maid servant of a very poor mother. He did not have a father. And then she was somehow managing the whole show, whatever she will earn out of selling the wood sticks and all that stuff. She would maintain him. And there were Bhakti Vedantas. Actually, these are the sages who actually travel throughout the place, throughout various places. And this was a rainy season, so they actually came to this place. And then when they came to this village, they actually got to stay here. And this boy got to hear from them about scriptures, and hearing the scriptures from them and honoring prasad, which was honored by them, Mahaprasad, he actually developed the attachment towards lotus feet of Krishna. And within few days after, of course, 3 months passed, they left, and he was very attached to them. And very interestingly, he lost his mother, because mother, when she went to the forest to get some wood, she was stung by a snake bite, and she died right away. So though he was a small boy, rather than thinking about what will I do, he actually left from there and started going to various holy places and started practicing bhakti. So here you see the third kind of people. What you see on this is they devoid of faith, do not find any blemish pertaining to the Shastras, which possess great qualities. So they don't have a faith. The second people at least have a faith, but they don't want to follow. Sorry. Right? They don't want to practice it. But here, they do not have a faith, but they do not find any blemish pertaining to Shastra, which means they accept Shastras are correct, not that there something is wrong. And because they are not resentful and work without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, all these persons are freed from karmas which are there from beginningless time, and which cause bondage. So when we talk about the knowledge, when we talk about Bhagavad Gita, when we talk about the Vedas, it is very important. First part is to have a faith. The second thing is accepting that Vedas are correct, which is, of course, part of the faith. You cannot have a faith unless you accept that second point. So that should be the first point, actually. And ultimately, following the instructions of the scriptures, which will actually take us lifetime, which will take millions of steps ahead. You see in this beautiful picture, these are all Westerners are actually wearing Indian clothes, dhoti, kurta, and all, and they are preaching shit about Krishna everywhere. Though they are native, their parentage or their childhood, they never understood, or they never heard about Krishna, but they are so surrendered because they have faith in scriptures, and they have dovetailed, they have changed their life to such a large extent to actually remember Krishna and following the footsteps of Krishna. So here, when we talk about the comparison between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, which is very important. So what is being mentioned on the left hand side there picture, what you see is these are people who are following the Vedic injunctions. So one person is offering the arti on the left hand side. This lady is offering the arti to Supreme Lord Krishna. The second lady is actually trying to cook for Krishna. The third person is trying to clean the temple for Krishna. The fourth person is honoring the prasad. The fifth person is cleaning the dishes. And this is following the footsteps of Arjuna. And what you see on the right hand side is a yogi who is trying to practice. However, because his senses are not controlled, when he sees the woman, he gets distracted with it, or opposite sex, he gets distracted with it, and then he puts his head, why did I get there? So what you see on the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga is easy to perform, and Jnana Yoga is difficult to practice. Why? Ultimately, and this is, we are talking about a Jnana Yoga without going through that stage of karma, which is renouncing prematurely. And that is what the situation of this yogi is. And and when we talk about Karma Yoga, doing every activity in remembering Krishna, free from the liability of lives. What the other side, not free from liability of lives. Independent of anything else, he is dependent on action for sustenance of the body. Because here God provides everything, he has a complete faith. And on Karma Yoga, there is a knowledge of self also is within its scope. This is not the case for this thing. Like you see, the honeybees here, or honeybees are trying to suck the honey while the bottle is completely closed. So same way, when the realization of God is not there, we just read it as a theory. What you see is they're trying to understand Bhagavad Gita with one's own mundane knowledge. It's like a bottle of honey from outside. Only when one becomes a devotee of Lord Krishna, one can understand Bhagavad Gita. So you see, there are so many translations, so many books written on Bhagavad Gita, so many teachings written on Bhagavad Gita. But until one actually, rather than just theoretically understanding, one actually applies those teachings, then the transformation of heart happens. For a simple example, for a child to be nourished, the child has to eat. When the child eats, the nourishment automatically comes. And which is being highlighted here. If I don't put the food in mouth, the nourishment will not come. Similar way, when we read the knowledge, when we acquire the knowledge, until we apply that, until we start chewing that knowledge, it will not happen. Like you see, when what cows do is they actually eat a lot of grass first. And then after eating the grass, they actually go and sit in the corner and they start chewing that. What is that process? The earlier part is you got the gyan, you understood, you heard Bhagavad Gita, you read Bhagavad Gita, and now you are chewing. Hold on, what is in it for me? Whatever I am learning, how do I apply it in my life? How can I actually every day try to see every step of Bhagavad Gita in my life? How am I supposed to see my current situation based on whatever is happening? Because life is not easy, and life takes twists and turns. If one is not firmly fixed, then it becomes difficult. Again, going on the purport, what is the situation Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is mentioning? Would they not be afraid of not following the instruction? This is very important, actually, deep. People know that scriptures are there? Are they not afraid that are they not afraid by not following the instructions of Bhagavad Gita? And this is the question is that. And the answer is no, they are not. Those who are engaged in their senses for enjoyment, even if they are intelligent, cannot consider the orders of the King Supreme Lord. This is because of their nature. And we saw the example of Duryodhana. Same problem. He knows what is dharma and what is adharma, and he also knows I am practicing adharma, but he cannot, in spite of being very intelligent. Duryodhana is a very intelligent guy. He's not a dumb guy who, oh, just I can't understand, that's why I'm doing it. So you see in the picture, it's not that these people do not know what is the repercussion of whatever I am doing right now. But I am just, we will come to that verse where Krishna talks about why these people behave like that. And that is one thing which is going to be discussed. Any questions so far? You all are able?
Just
Go
a
ahead,
quick comment.
please.
Um, um, Again, I'm not trying to say anything
Don't worry.
against, but the word instruction seems to be very
Yes, yes.
not a correct
Correct,
word
right.
actually,
Yeah.
because Hinduism and we don't have a set of instructions. It is much bigger and broader than instructions. It is a philosophy, it's a guidance, it's a guardrails,
Very,
right? If
very
when you
nice.
say instructions, it's somebody can follow instructions without thinking through. It's a blindly step one, step two, step three. That's not what
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita or Vedas are. It is about telling, hey, this is a wealth of knowledge. Now you
Mm.
go understand what is in it for you and how you can apply and become a better person. So that is a way above than being instructions. So I just wanted to comment that.
My goodness, that's a beautiful point. When we talk about the instructions, there is a kind of first and foremost thing, the relationship is more of a master and servant. I am telling you, you have to follow the instruction. However, our scriptures go much beyond than the instruction. Are more of a teaching. And good Mataji, thank you so much. When you talk about teaching, it is actually the relationship is that this is good for you. And I feel maybe if you do that, that is helpful to you. And that is how Krishna is teaching Bhagavad Gita. Krishna would have told Arjuna, Krishna, just do whatever I'm telling you. But he didn't do that. He actually empowered him. He gave him all the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And we will read towards the end where Krishna says, I gave you all the knowledge. Now you do whatever you want to do. So that free will is there. And when we think about the scriptures, especially about our religion, is specifically focusing on empowering people with this knowledge which you can apply, and then you see the transformation of heart. Like for an example, you we give an example about Mrigrari. He was a hunter. So for him, the knowledge, the not the instruction, but the teachings were given. Now for him, he applied in a different same teaching. For us the teachings are same, but for me the application could be in a different way, which is still aligning me towards the same principle. So very beautiful point, Mataji, thank you so much for adding that. Any other comments?
Just to add on to that, that's where in the corporate world we talk about coaching versus mentorship, right?
uh,
So coaching is basically you're always giving instructions. Okay, do this, thou shall do this, thou shall say that, right? But when you say mentorship, that means you're gauging what the other person's capacity is, what the level is, and then guiding that person. So that's where that that difference comes from.
Super amazing point, thank you so much, very very wonderful point. Any other comments? Okay, so what we see here, the people who are following and the people who are not following the laws. So the divine is they want to follow the God's laws, and demonic people they rebel against God's laws. The divine they mention about, excuse me, they focus on the selfless service to God and their children, his children. The demonic people, they are only concerned about themselves, selfishly concerned about one's own gratification. The divine quality is whatever I possess is the gift of God. Everything I possess on the other side is earned by my own ability, skills, and hard work. I am the doer. The divine people, they think before act. But demonic people, for them, just do it. I follow the advice of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, which is scriptures. And on demonic side, I do what I like. I don't care for anyone. On this side, the eternal life of bliss and knowledge. And on the other side, it's an only immediate pleasures are my goal. What am I going to get out of it? And that's the mentality we are talking about. We are not talking about specific to people. We are talking about mentality, because the same people who may be demoniac in nature can become divine by the powerful association, by powerful teachings of scriptures and following them. So we are not talking about specifically, but we are talking about the mindset of such people. Like you see in this slide, these two verses are going to be a big, because this is a lot of important substances given. We'll see elaborate description on that. Again, this is the left hand side is, I forgot to put the title, the left hand side is the divine and right hand side is the demonic. What you see, the divine people want to accept guru, they want to follow they want to study Vedas like you are doing. They perform austerity, like the Ekadashi comes, we just had Thursday, there was not Thursday, yeah, Thursday was Ekadashi. Sense control, very important. And then acquiring spiritual ultimately brings one to Krishna. However, on the other side, forget about the top picture, but if you see on the right hand side, what is that? There is a problem with the attachment, there is a pride, there is a false prestige, there is ignorance, there is greed, there is lust here, there is anger here, there is envy here. And these are the qualities, these are the anarthas, not unwanted things which are lurking in our heart, and they are the one which are pulling us down rather than taking us up. This is the common situation today. Everyone is dragging their soul from here to bottom, which is a big problem. Versus actually practicing spiritual life, which brings one to upper planet rather than going lower planet. So what you see in this picture, that people come to the men, to the human form, and then they get degraded into lower and lower, and they go into the lower planets. And that is what is being mentioned here, that is what is being shown here, right? So that's an important point. Now we see what is the connection between verse 31 and 32, which we have covered so far. What is the result of acting or not acting according to Lord's injunction, which is being obedient or disobedient? So, in 31 we covered how to follow and result of following. So, how to follow? One has to follow with faith, one has to follow without envy. And what is the result? The freedom from all bondage, which means one was free from the cycle of birth and death. And when we talk about the faith, it has to be done firm faith, which is surety of success. And if the firm faith is not there, there are no benefits or very minimal benefits, and one never gets liberated. And this is the example of some philosophers. And in verse 32, we covered out of envy disregards the teachings they do not follow. And what is the result of that? They are bereft of all knowledge, they are befooled, and then ruined in their endeavors for perfection. And this is the example which we gave, the analogy of disobedience, as there is a punishment for disobedience to the orders of supreme executive head here. There is a punishment for disobedience to the order of supreme personality of Godhead, which are defined in scripture. So this is what we covered in verse 31 and 32. So first is the obedient, and second is disobedience. That is what we covered in this verse. Are we all good there? Can we move to the next verse?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Now, when we talk about the next section, which we are specifically talking about, we are talking about regulating habits by rendering devotional service. So now one may say, okay, I understood what is the result of disobedience. I understood what is the result of obedience. Can you tell me, say, I may be in disobedience category for certain section, and I may be obedient in certain section. Can you tell me how can I put my firm faith in Krishna, firm faith in bhakti? So what are the habits, what are the symptoms, how do I do? So this is just talking about how to regulate habits by rendering devotional service. So with that, we are coming to verse 33. Please follow along. Sadrasham chestate swasya
Sadrasham
Sadrisham
chesu
Yasya
Chetusya
prakrte jnanavanapi
prakriti
Prakriti
jnanam
Jnanavanapi
prakritim yanti bhutani
Prakritim
prakritam
Yanti
yanti
Bhutani
bhutani
nigraha kim karishyati.
nigraham
Nigrahaham Kim
karishyati.
Karishyati.
Any volunteer for translation,
You can do.
please?
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three moods. What can repression accomplish?
Arjuna is going to the next level now. We understood the obedience and disobedience, but we see there are people with knowledge. It apparently looks like, in spite of that knowledge, they behave in a certain way which is beyond our imagination. Why doesn't happen? Because their nature they acquired from three modes of material nature. Just couple of weeks back we were covering about the three modes. We were talking about three ladies on the top pulling the ropes, and we are like the puppets, and this is what is being spoken here. So going back to the slide, what is that? We cannot force someone to give up this conditional nature and material desires. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his or her own nature. Everyone follows the nature he or her has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Now we are jumping into this. We saw this picture before, but now we are seeing with a different lens. What is being spoken here? Even the man of knowledge acts according to his or her nature. All living entities act according to their nature. What can instruction of karma and jnana do for the most fallen? So one may say, I mean, nothing is, I cannot do much here. It feels like I'm a puppet, and whatever the three modes of material nature are doing, I'm doing. What can I do now? So this is very beautiful. Here the purport is describing what is the power of impressions. There are three words which are specifically accepted here, and I'm going back here. If I minimize that, so when we think about, I'll come to that. So there are samskaras, which are impressions, which we are talking about, and the second level, when the samskaras are nothing but the impressions in our subconscious mind. For an example, you tasted something when you are a small boy or small girl, and then that impression went in, oh, this thing is very nice, or this thing is not good. Like you see a lot of times a person once tried particular thing, they don't want to, I tried it, I'm not going to try it. I see that at least with kids, and I'm sure it applicable to adults also. They tried it once, oh, I don't want to have it, because that created an impression. I use my tongue, which is being mentioned here. How do we collect impressions? We collect impression by shabda, by words, by sparsha, by touch, by rasa, which is developing a taste, and then rupa and gandha, seeing and smelling. This is how we collect impressions. For an example, you go to a certain place and you have a good fragrance. You say, oh, this place is very good, this restaurant is very good, because you get a good fragrance. So you just created an impression out of it. One example could be, somebody shows a popcorn, I smell it, I see it, and I taste it. That forms an impression. Similarly, when one watches a movie or something watches on the TV, where the eyes are involved, and these impressions are, these are the inputs. And when these impressions go in, they are they are printed on the subconscious mind. So whatever we see, whatever we hear, whatever we do, that creates an impression on the mind. My Shiksha Guru used to say a beautiful point. He used to say, the life is all about collecting impressions. Like, so kids, what they collect is, I forgot, not tattoos. What they do, they collect is, can someone remind me? They collect like something, huh?
Stickers?
The cards.
Correct, stickers, cards. So we collect all this information, or all this way of this thing. So it is collected on the mind. An interesting fact which he shared, when we are in our last stage of leaving this body, the whole movie runs for all the impressions we have attained so far in our subconscious mind. And wherever the movie stops, because that's where our last eye is going, or we are contemplating. It's not just by seeing, because blind people don't see. That does not mean they go back to God. It's just my impressions are created, and when I leave that moment, seeing something, that decides my next destination. So this is called as impressions, samskaras. Now when we have gradual combination of multiple samskaras, they form vasanas. Those are called as tendencies. Like certain people, excuse me, behave in a certain way. They have a tendency to be like we call it as gray areas. Everyone has their gray areas. For an example, a person who's a foodie who likes sweet and he has developed the 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 disease that he cannot eat the sweets, diabetic. So now in that case, his gray areas, man, don't go closer to the sweets because that's your gray area. Similar way, everyone has these tendencies or these gray areas, we call it as. So one has to be mindful. And again, there are positive version of that. And the last one is a vritti, which is propensity. That when I come to a certain situation and when I come to certain this thing, for an example, people who are who are about or who are thinking to leave drinking, they are suggested not to actually indulge or not to go in the assembly of other drunkards. Just be away from them because the propensity has been increased now. So you don't want to be there until you are completely free from that. And that is what is being described here. So that is the vritti part which is being described here. So again, you don't see my screen. Is that right now? Is that right?
Yeah, yes, we don't see it.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll share that screen again. So that is what is being spoken here, that the power of impressions, even a Jnanavan, which is the knowledgeable person, acts according to his evil nature. And this is what you see Dhritarashtra's example. Dhritarashtra had a good association. He had right people around him. At least Vidura was there, always guiding him in the right direction. But he was not able to follow the instruction. And this is even after the Gyan, he could not do that. What then to speak of a person who does not even know about the punishment? So, irrelevant of whether I know the rules of driving here in America, or laws that driving here, if I'm not following a rule, I'm going to be ticketed irrelevant of whatever happens. Whether I have a gyan or not gyan. If I don't have a gyan, man, you're supposed to get the gyan. You're supposed to get the knowledge and then act on that. So all people follow their sinful vasanas, which is we talked about prakritim. Even though those desires cause of destruction of very goal, they pursue artha, dharma, kama, and moksha. It's very, very dangerous actually. Just thinking about myself. The propensity we have developed before coming or reaching here, they actually haunt us. Hey, I used to do like that. I used to go here. I used to do that. That was nice. And now, actually, like I'll give you one example. This is one one Westerner who joined a brahmachari ashram. He used to surf. He loved surfing in the ocean. So he joined full time in the temple. So one day he developed a desire, man, I want to go for surfing. And he just somehow sneaked out from there and then took a surfing board and went to ocean for surfing. He did surfing for years and years and years before. And now he came to bhakti. Now when he came to bhakti, again he spent a good period of time. So when he went for surfing, he never had any issue before. This time when he went for surfing, there were sharks started chasing him. And this guy was running for his life this time. And he was like, man, never happened. I surfed so many times. How's that? Today is the day when I'm, after such a long period of leaving, that I'm just coming, and this is first time in my life, the sharks are chasing him. And of course, we all know about the propensity of sharks. They'll just devour you, man. So this person started actually reciting powerful prayers which he has learned in Krishna consciousness, especially Narsimha Puja, Narsimha Arati, which we sing after every kirtan. And to his surprise, when he opened his eyes, the sharks were gone. He immediately got out the ocean. He came to the temple. I'm like, I'm never going to do again. Why am I sharing this? This is how the life is. When we come to bhakti, when we start practicing, there are still certain propensities which are deep rooted and they come on the surface. And when one tries to do that, he realizes, or he or she realizes, oh man, this is the biggest blunder. I shouldn't do that. One example is Ajamil. Brahmana never indulge in any wrong activities from his birth. Very good, obedient servant, son of the father. One time, his father told him, "Can you go and get the wood for the fire sacrifice from the forest?" He went to the forest. When he went to the forest, he saw a prostitute enjoying with some man. When he saw that sight, his desire to enjoy became stronger. He had a wife, but he left that wife, he left his family and married that prostitute, same prostitute, and indulged in all gambling, killing business. And many children with this prostitute, but at the age of like more than 70, he had one son. And by some arrangement of the sadhu, that son's name, sadhu said you should keep the name of the son as Narayan. And then the story moves forward. But what is in connection to the pastime we are talking about is wonderful person practicing spiritual life nicely, but those desires were deep rooted, in this case not from this lifetime but from previous lifetime, and he acted on that. And what a sinful life he led. At the last breath when he was dying, Yamadutas came to take him, to punish him. They were supposed to put him in hot oil, and so many punishment they were supposed to give. But because he chanted the name of Nara, and Vishnu Dutas came and they said, "Oh, you cannot take him." And they suggested, um, and then not that he immediately got liberation. Then they got an opportunity where where they told him, this guy realized I made a mistake. So he went to Haridwar, near the shore of near the banks of Ganga, and he performed tapasya, he performed bhakti for 12 years and finally went back to Godhead. So this is a very important principle which we are talking about. So not that we now in this case one may say, oh, then I am just a puppet. What can I do? But now there is a medicine given here. That power of association. What is the power of association that exceeds the power of impression? However, by saintly association, one destroyed the bad vasanas or desires, even if they are very strong propensities. You see on the right hand side, you see Dhritarashtra. He's getting the teachings of Vidura, but unfortunately, this guy never understood that. But you see further down, this is actually Mrigrari, a hunter who was killing the animal half dead. And one time Narada Muni came and he realized what is he doing, and he actually gave him a knowledge. And what is the output of that knowledge when he acquired? He developed so much wonderful saintly qualities in this picture. What you see is there are certain ants crawling. Not that he is doing a show off in front of his spiritual master. So he is seeing the ants on this thing, and with his chadar, with whatever he is wearing, he's trying to move them so that he can offer obeisances to his guru. You see Narada Muni holding Veena. This is the power of association. When you come in association of great sages, when you come in association of sincere seekers of spirituality, that actually takes you away from those propensities, those tendencies. That's why an intelligent person should therefore reject all bad association and instead take up the association of saintly devotees, whose words cut off excessive attachment of one's mind. And this is what is being mentioned. My dear friend Narada Muni, you are glorified as the sage among the demigod. By your mercy, even a low-born person, like a hunter, immediately became ecstatic. This is called as Bhava or Rati, which is mentioned in Skanda Purana. Any questions or comments so far?
Just a quick clarification. So you mentioned about this example of the devotee going on a surfing. Is surfing falls under what we are calling as definition of desire? I mean,
Mataji, I'll clarify. I'm sorry, I didn't do a good job there. I am mentioning about any tendency which I'm not saying that tendencies, I'm not saying surfing is wrong or any of that stuff, but certain desires which take away from Krishna. In this case, this person is full time and he is doing everything for pleasure of Krishna. Surfing is one example which you cannot imagine Krishna's service. That is purely an entertainment because I want to do it just for my pleasure, and that is one thing which is being mentioned. But again, I'm not mentioning that maintaining a health is not a good thing, because one may say, oh, how can I engage my like exercising and all this? Because you have to maintain the body, and for maintaining the body, to maintain the soul, you need maintaining the body, and that's why you're doing it. But what I was exactly mentioning about is these deep rooted propensities or desires which are deep rooted. Hey, I want to do that. One day I used to go there, and you're not supposed to go in that lane. Like I give an example of a drunkard who used to go in a particular bar to drink, and now all of a sudden he left everything and now he became a devotee. He understood this is not good for me, and finally he came to that conclusion that I shouldn't be there. But one day he just passes by something and he developed that desire. And that is what is being mentioned about when one comes in association of the pure devotees, one even can conquer that. That's what I was thinking about. Does it help, Mataji?
Eh, Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mataji, you have further question on that.
No, I mean, I was just contemplating that the definition of desire here is little different
Hmm.
from what persons wants to do. Like, what you're saying about exercising or surfing, or even if somebody loves to dance. I mean, they love to dance. It's not having that's their individual preference, right? So I don't think that takes away a devotion from God or something. I
Yeah.
mean,
Sorry, the word I wanted to use and the word which I was speaking about is a propensity. Propensity and desire are two different things. When you have a certain desire, you keep doing that, that becomes your propensity. And that is what I was mentioning about. And certain desires are not good. So in this case, you gave an example about dancing. This is fine because dancing helps you to maintain your body, which is fine. And we dance for Krishna. Um, like couple of times when you all came to the temple, you see these devotees are dancing and jumping in the kirtan, so definitely they are involving those activities in that, but are connected to Krishna. But when those activities are not connected to Krishna, I'm just doing it, and everything boils down to what is your motivation behind it. You are doing same activities, what is the motivation behind it? If the motivation behind it, I want to go away from Krishna, then that is something which is not going to help you going towards Krishna. But if the same activity, which is actually nourishing your Krishna consciousness, is good, for an example, if I have a tendency to talk, if I keep talking about mundane things, they are not taking me towards Krishna. But that same tendency of talking, if I'm using it to speak about Krishna and preach about Krishna, the intention is what counts. That is what I mean to say. So it is very subtle. When we mention about it, it is all about what is your intention behind that. So when I gave the example about this person went to surfing, he definitely had an intention not in Krishna conscious ways. His intention was, oh, let me enjoy. And that is what the point here is. And again, when we talk about, is enjoyment a problem? No, enjoyment is not a problem. And that's where I'm saying not a desire, but it is about the tendencies which are developed in that. They are much more deep rooted. And I gave an example about Ajamil is more appropriate, where we see those tendencies actually took him way beyond away from Krishna. And that is one example. um and same other example could be drinking liquor or certain activities which are not Krishna conscious, which are actually losing one's consciousness to understand what is right and wrong. That is what I was trying to describe, Madhaji.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see 458. Any other comments or question? I think we will start the next verse next week, which is 434. So today we covered 32 and 33, two verses. Sorry, we wanted to cover more, but 32 is a important verse, and a lot of explanation was needed. So we'll continue next week on that one. But any comments or questions?
Thank you so much for organizing class while you are in travel. Have a safe travel.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's wonderful. Actually, you all sincerely come, and then I'm like, I don't want to miss it. We have actually here a Kirtan retreat. This is 14 Feb, Valentine's Day, and during this weekend there is a Kirtan here. So hundreds of people here in the temple hall. So I'm like, okay, let me take it from the car. So we all come together chanting the name of Krishna, and we are just giving an example, dancing. Everyone is just right now. There are top class kirtanias who are singing, and then people are just mad dancing, jumping, amazing prasad. We just said lasagna, pizza, and all that stuff. So it's great actually. So just enjoyment is not a problem, but when that enjoyment is taking us towards Krishna is much more sublime, because reality of this world is everything is temporary, but here there is a hope. When we leave our body remembering Krishna, we will attain his abode. We all are yearning for that one. So yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments or reflections? We all got what we discussed today. Shrikant Prabhu, Nitya Mataji are all aligned.
Yeah. Yeah.
No questions. No questions.
Okay, okay, beautiful. So I'll give you 1 minute back. Thank you so much. La Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. We'll continue next week again.
Okay,
Thank
safe
you.
Thank you.
travels.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Take care,
Krishna.
everyone. Bye. Hare